Peace, family. I'm Assaan-ANU. You are listening to Foundational Fridays. And in this session, I'm going to actually be preparing some of you for the up-and-coming class series, as well as answering some of your questions. I'm very thankful for those of you who've made it here, those of you listening in live, and of course those of you who will receive the archives afterwards. As many of you have probably figured out by now, the majority of the shows that I have done prior to today have been pre-recorded. And that's because typically on Fridays, it's a very busy time for me with readings and consultations that I do with people. So to make sure that I never sacrifice this time that I consider to be sacred, this 6:30 to 7:30 slot, I always make sure at least I pre-record a show, even if I want to go live, but that way nothing will ever get sacrificed or tainted in this time. This is a time that I've held sacred to project and present this message and this experience that I have for you all. But on this Friday, I felt it pertinent to come in live for you and to give you an opportunity to call in and ask any questions that you'd like, whether it be about the up-and-coming series or just questions in general. The call-in number is 347-945-7680. That's 347-945-7680. I've gotten a pretty good amount of emails, about a dozen or more, in regards to the class series asking the same question. And that's pretty much, to sum it up, how can people sign up for the new series and how can they pay for it? Well, the way I did it is that I held off registration until November 1st. I did that because that number is significant, or that date is significant for me, and is significant for the initiation of the class series. So until that actual date, for those of you who have signed up on the Udemy platform already and have taken the free prerequisite course, for those of you who have signed up, you have not seen the new course, and that's because I've kept it hidden until that date. So there'll be no rushing ahead until November 1st. On November 1st, everyone will start. And if you want to start after that, that's fine as well. You don't necessarily have to start exactly November 1st, but the class will be available to the public at large November 1st, 2012. So at that point, you'll be able to sign up and also pay for the class through that site. The class itself holds within it 10 different lectures, and within those lectures, you have also activities. And within those activities, you also have written work to be done, as well as the lectures to be watched and listened to. So it's actually very thorough. It's very comprehensive, and something that I know as a whole the learning community is going to enjoy and really benefit from. This particular part of the class series is phase 1. As I mentioned in the video where I explained it, there's 3 different phases. You know, the first phase deals with more the ministry to self. Second phase deals with the ministry to the divine, and the third phase deals with the ministry to the people. And the word ministry just means to serve. So for those of you who are looking to work with people, going up through that third phase would be highly recommended by me. But you can stop wherever you want. You know, if you want to just take phase 1, or just take phase 1 and phase 2. The way it's designed is that after each phase, you'll know some things. You know, you won't take phase 1 and feel like, okay, I still don't know what I'm doing, or I still don't have the confidence that I thought I was going to have, or the ability that I thought I was going to have. I designed it in such a way so that as soon as you take one lecture out of the course, any one lecture you take, you immediately have some things that you can apply and you can do that will take your craft, your art, and your understanding to the next level. Now, even though the phase 1 is an introductory phase, it's an introductory phase based on my system. So it's not introductory in the sense that if you've already been in the way or in the tradition for X amount of years, you don't need to take phase 1. It's still is packed with a lot of information. It's packed with a lot of learning, a lot of tutelage, and I do personally feel that it comes from a very unique place, and based on the lectures that are presented, it kind of even tells you what things you should be focusing on, even for those who've been in tradition for X amount of years. That will be available November 1st, and accompanying that will also be weekly live video sessions with me. So for those of you who sign up, you'll be able to ask me questions and, query me as to what you're working on in terms of your activities, whether it be obstacles you may have hit or even success stories. But we'll be able to talk one-on-one. So the class is not just me giving you some material and then shooing you away and not being accessible or available after that. The class is designed as such so that even once you gather the lecture material and you start doing the exercises and going through the programs, you're still able to interface with me one-on-one and get that direct information and that direct learning and wisdom from me. So, there's a lot coming up, and there'll be some more things aside of that. I'm considering also doing a live Ustream this month as well, and just have to kind of work out the dates and the times on that. But that will also be an opportunity for the community at large to ask certain questions and things like that. But for those who are taking the class, the things that I would go into in that Q&A session will be much deeper and more specific and exclusive to what you're learning in the class. All right, so it'll be two different formats in a sense. I also wanted to thank all of those who have reached out to me and expressed their appreciation for the Orisha mixtape that I put together and put out. That was a lot of fun for me, and I definitely know I'm going to do one again. Maybe I'm looking at to celebrate the release of the course. I'll probably do another one. It's an idea I had for some time now to actually put together an Orisha mixtape because I know for the energies that I work with, a lot of them are of hearing certain rhythms and certain songs, and I drum myself. So a lot of times I would drum for my energies. I'll drum in front of my jingilis, in front of my shrines, and give them the energy direct. And sometimes the rhythms that I end up doing are much different than the traditional rhythms that are taught. Or sometimes I'll pull out my guitar or, my keyboard and I'll play. And a lot of times, like I said, the melodies and the rhythms and the harmonies are not what we traditionally are taught. Motivates those particular energies. So that kind of got me on a path to really researching and exploring and trying to figure out, what energies and what rhythms and what sonic palettes have been created in the now time that may align with these ancient energies. So hence I started really researching with the library and just kind of doing a lot of trial and error, putting certain songs in front of the shrines and seeing what kind of reactions I got, seeing which ones they liked, whether it be through divination or just through intuiting. And it was very interesting because some of the songs that I thought certain energies would love, they just weren't having it. Like I remember this Apollonia 6. I think it's Sex Shooter, not Blue Limousine, but Sex Shooter. And I remember I kept trying to play that for Oshun, and she just wasn't having it. And I was almost trying to force it down. I was like, come on, you gotta like, how could you not like this song, Sex Shooter? How could you not like Apollonia 6? And she was just not feeling it at all. And I tried multiple days, and said, well, let me try it again another day. Maybe she'll warm up to it. But there's something about the vibration in that song that Oshun is just not digging, from candles going out to things falling to just the hair on the back of my neck standing up to loud no's ringing in my head. No, turn it off. I realized that, okay, Oshun is not really digging Apollonia. And Oshun wasn't really digging Vanity Too Tough either, because I was like, okay, well, I know maybe Nasty Girl. You probably, nope, it wasn't happening. So it was fun because, like I said, it was a lot of trial and error in terms of picking the actual songs and the motion and order in which they traversed throughout the sonic journey. But through that, I was able to compile a lot of different songs that I will use in future works. So it was a lot of fun. But that's basically what we're working on now in terms of the class and, like I said, the mixtape and things like that are coming forth. There's one email that I actually wanted to respond to on air by someone. I'm going to leave this person nameless because his journey is his journey and it's his business. But I'm going to read a little bit of it, and if it sounds a little choppy, it's because I'm leaving some things out. But he asked a question that I thought was very valuable for other people to hear, because it's a question that comes up pretty often, and I think it could help several different people at once, a lot of different people at once. But basically, he says he's coming out of the Santeria tradition, and he had an issue with the Ile that he was at. And with the head of that Ile, and because of that issue, he's kind of a nomad now. He's doing his own thing, but while he was there, he received some shrine implements as well as some techniques. He received the Opaiku, which is the ancestral times you'll see at people's ancestral shrines. For those who don't know what that is, it's the stick that you'll see that I have sometimes like a lot of ribbons wrapped around it, and bells as well. That's to clear out energy as well as to call forth your ancestral energies. And you can have your priest or your elders make those, or priestesses or your elders make those staffs for you. But he received those, and he also received his elekes. And he was taught how to construct an altar, and he does his prayers, he does meditations, and he does spiritual baths. Okay, I'm reading this as I'm talking, but I'm editing, so that's why it's a little choppy. He has had experiences when using the staff and doing the prayers that he was taught, and he actually began to speak in tongues, from particular things that he's been doing. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with speaking in tongues, some of us are, those of us who have spent time in the Christian church, especially the fire baptized or Pentecostal church, speaking in tongues is said to be in the Bible evidence of the indwelling of the Holy Spirit. Because on the day of Pentecost, when the apostles came from the upper room, this is in Acts, they came down and they began to speak in tongues. And what speaking in tongues is, some people think it's, some people think it's Spanish, but it's not Spanish, because it almost sounds like it. Some people think it's Latin. But what it is, it's a combination of various languages, because at that moment that you're speaking in tongues, you're channeling and you're bringing in various energies and people from all around the world, and it combines into its own language. Now, some will tell you that speaking in tongues is its own spiritual language. Yeah, in a sense it is. But if you really listen, you'll hear words from different languages. So he's had that experience. And I've actually seen that a lot. Sometimes speaking in tongues can be invoked in the oddest of circumstances. I remember one time when I was much younger, I was driving a car that I had at the time, and it was a wreck. I mean, I had fixed it up, but before I fixed it up, it was a wreck. And it was a stick shift. And I was coming around a corner, and I had a young lady in the car with me. And I think either the power, I'm trying to remember, either the power steering went out or something happened with the clutch. And we almost hit a tree. And I was able to narrowly miss this tree. And I think it even scraped one of my, my mirrors on the side of the car. And she started speaking in tongues. She was so terrified, she was shaking, and she was speaking in tongues, which she had never done before. So, there's things that can cause you to leap out of your body for a moment, or to connect to a higher source right in that moment in order to prevent something from occurring. She might have been the energy that kept us alive that day, kept us from going head first into that tree. So anyway, back to the story. So, or to the email. So he's had experiences. He's even went to the water, and he's worked with Yemonya, and he's had a feeling from that. Now, he was taught not to work with the Orisha, and because he's not initiated, and to only work with his ancestors and spirit guides. He says this confuses him. He says he's having also a strong urge to work with his Ori. Based on the information I have given you, what advice can you give me? Hope to hear from you soon. Peace and blessings. Okay, well, I'll say this, first. Yeah, a lot of houses do teach that unless you're initiated, you should not be bringing offerings to Orisha. You should not be speaking to Orisha. You can pray to Orisha. They'll always tell you that you can pray, but you shouldn't be bringing any offerings or, quote unquote, working with them unless you're initiated. Now, there's several reasons for this. And one, I'm just going to flat out have to say it. Some people, and I'm not blaming your prior godfather. I'm just speaking based on my personal experience, what I've seen in many different houses, from Santeria, of course. So it's not just a Santeria thing, Santeria to Lukumi to Yoruba. People a lot of times will push you towards initiation. So if you say, well, I've had a dream about this, or I felt like I had a conversation with this Orisha, that Orisha, they'll kind of negate your experience. They won't validate it. And they'll say, well, no, that, how do you know? First thing they'll say, well, let's say if it's Shango, you said you had a dream about. How do you know that wasn't Shango? There's a lot of spirits out here that will imitate Orisha, but unless you're initiated, you're not covered and you're not protected. To tell you things like that, and then you'll get scared, and you'll say, okay, maybe it was the devil who was talking to me, and a lot of that is because they want that money for initiation. Okay, plain and simple. They want to get your money for initiation, so they tell you need to get initiated as soon as you walk in. They'll say you came at the perfect time because the reading says you were getting ready to get in a car accident, this, that, so forth and third, or you're supposed to be a child of this and you have to hurry up and do it, and So sometimes it's that. Sometimes if you're dealing in a house that doesn't really work with the Orisha, some houses only work with saints. Some houses only work with ancestral spirits, and they're not versed in working with the Orisha. So in some of those environments, they'll tell you, no, don't work with the Orisha, because reality is they can't really carry you. They don't know how to really properly show you how to work with the Orisha. Another reason why that happens often is because some houses try to keep you dependent on them. So when it's time to come do an offering, they say, okay, if you want to bring an offering, you come bring it to my issue. You come bring it here, and I'll present it for you. And, of course, you're going to have to pay a fee to the house for that, or even just by leaving your offering at the house, of course, gets a blessing, because the house's Orisha is always being fed. So sometimes it's to maintain that dependency, and through that dependency, you'll never leave the house. You'll find that some people who run houses, whether they be male or female, they try to create like subscription services with their initiates or with their godchildren. So every month or every 2 months, you're bringing them $200 or $150 or $300 or more, and this is kind of how they keep the revenue coming in. A lot of times you're told that. Now, in an older sense, there was a time before we came into this power that we currently have now. The year now is 2012, Roman time, and we have come into a new level of power. So there was a time when you needed to be introduced, washed in, and sanctified by the energy of these Orishas in order to have dialogue with them. But according to your email, you're already having exchanges with them. They're already contacting and working with you. So therefore, in truth, now, some may disagree, you really don't need to get initiated in order to interact with them. It's already begun. now we've come into another level of power like we've never had before. So the things that we're able to do now without the 10, 15, 20-year wait, or without $1,500 or $10,000 worth of rituals, we can do now just by meditation, study, and humility and respect, and most important, gratitude. Even though, I've often told you through all of these broadcasts that the Orisha are to be employed by you, it doesn't mean that they're to be disrespected by you. It doesn't mean that you should not be grateful for what you receive. It doesn't mean that they're not working with you. So even though you're employing them, you're still working hand in hand.